Fairgrounds, Pomona, California, where the NHRA has been running the Winternationals for 26 years. Hi, I'm Brock Yates along with Steve Evans, and earlier we had an incredible moment in first round qualifying for Top Fuel when two of the greatest names in the sport came together.
That's right, Brock. Shirley Muldowney back in NHRA major competition for the first time since her terrible crash in Montreal, Canada in the summer of 1984. A brand new pink car, and who should she face in round number one but Don Garlits, the defending world champion from Sefner, Florida. And these two, of course, have had an ongoing rivalry for many, many years.
Absolutely. Sort of a love-hate relationship, really, between these two. They've raced, butted heads, been rivals on and off the track. But, of course, Garlits, one of the most concerned of all when she was hurt. But now it's strictly competition as these two faced off in round one.
And no one arrived late to the fairgrounds this morning knowing that this confrontation would occur in round number one. Before they strapped into these cars, Brock talked to Don Garlits.
Does this add any extra pressure? I know you've had pressure on you all your life. Is there any kind of extra moment here that wouldn't otherwise come in a Winternationals first round?
Well, of course, you know, because she has run so good, and then, of course, prior to that, you know, in the press, she has stated that, you know, she's the only one that's any competition for me, and it's like I won the world championship. It's like because she wasn't out there, and you know, and then she came in and has qualified under me. It's like she's backing up what she says. So if she knocks me out in this first round, it'll almost be like just granting her the world championship for 1985. What can you say, right?
Well, I can say that you're not going to let that happen if humanly possible.
Well, if humanly possible, I'm hoping not to let any stones go unturned here on this thing. But as you know, as goes all the way of drag racing, anything can happen, and usually does.
Well, the best of luck, Don.
Thank you, Brock.
And now, let's go to my pal Steve Evans with the other half of this classic confrontation.
Well, Brock, as you know, this past week in Southern California, you couldn't pick up a newspaper or turn on the television set without seeing this very famous pink car. And Shirley Muldowney, from that very first run in qualifying, did not disappoint her many fans. 5:47, the ride of her life, the quickest she'd ever run. It was low ET at the time. Only Dick LaHaye ran just a little bit quicker. But Shirley, it almost seemed destined that you would race Big Daddy Don Garlits in round one.
That's ironic. It's two good cars right at the start, so I don't mind racing Big Daddy, and I don't think he minds racing me.
You wouldn't prefer another draw?
No, the way we look at it is we try to get rid of the good ones and then go on from there, but it's going to be an awfully good race.
You had a few engine problems in qualifying.
Well, it got out there and it kind of misbehaved coming into the lights. It ran out of gear, so we made a change, and we knew that it did hurt the elapsed time, and not that we're bragging, but it did. I'm not going to say it could have picked up a 10th, but it would have been better than a 47.
Go get him.
That's what we're here for. Thanks, Steve.
So this is the way it played out. Remember now, Shirley Muldowney, this is her first major national race since her bad crash almost 18 months ago, which was followed by an epic story of rehabilitation.
These are the hands of Garlits crew chief Herb Parks, adjusting the low-end idle circuit on the engine. It may be the first big race for Shirley's new car. It's the last event for this black car that carried Don Garlits to a world championship a year ago. It will reside in his museum in Florida following this event. The tension, Brock, just incredible as these two stage.
Absolutely. As we said earlier, no real love lost between them. There's green light. Garlits is off first.
Garlits was away first. Shirley Muldowney loses traction, half track, and suddenly the blower exploded. Don Garlits took the win lights at 5.59 seconds, 264 miles an hour. The lady smoked the tires, but wasn't about to give up.
She sure wasn't. As you can see here, Garlits left just a wink earlier, but Muldowney stays in it all the way. Tires boiling all the way down to quarter mile. Garlits' reaction time was almost 0.04 of a second better than Shirley's, but she stayed with him almost all the way until the Pomona Fairgrounds rattled with an explosion from her blower. That, of course, took her out of competition, ended her opportunity for a comeback here at Pomona. Steve was with her at the end.
Well, the disappointment for Shirley Muldowney in failing to defeat Don Garlits is compounded by a very expensive engine explosion. First of all, I know your ears are ringing, but are you okay other than that?
Yeah, I'm okay. Just wonder where the blower went, that's all.
It's in a million pieces, unfortunately, all over the racetrack. It looked to be a good wheel-to-wheel race until the engine exploded.
Well, he was out on me. Not much. I didn't see any daylight, that's for sure. I used the lean-out button, and I thought that might pick it up, and he was out there.
Well, I have a feeling that this setback here will be overcome very quickly.
Oh, yeah, you learn by your mistakes, and we'll definitely learn why it happened and try not to have it happen again. But what can you do, Steve? That's welcome to drag racing.
We'll see you at Gainesville, I'm sure.
Sure will, thanks.
So the three-time world champion was out after a classic confrontation with a very determined Don Garlits.
Well, Don, a 5:59, it looked like you let it wire to wire.
I got off a little bit ahead of her, and I guess it just held on to it. We shook real bad.
And she had a violent blower explosion. You probably heard.
No, I didn't hear that. Where was it? Down toward the end?
Yes, sir.
No, I didn't hear that.
The pressure of racing Shirley is off now. What do you think about the rest of this event?
Now we got to try to win this race. Do our best.
He's got a good shot at it.
Well, that confrontation was, I'm sure, all you expected and more. But we'll be seeing more with Shirley Muldowney later in the show. I'll tell you what, though, Steve, Top Fuel, far from over.
Oh, Brock, we knew that Top Fuel was going to be special at the Winternationals yesterday when Joe Amato set a new world speed record at 269 miles an hour, and we have seen more drivers in the 5:40 elapsed time area than we ever have at any drag race. Young Darrell Gwynn there with a 5:40, Gary Beckett a 41, Connie Coletta at a 43, and of course Joe Amato, former world champion and new speed record holder, also in the 40s. Top Fuel is really a war, with or without the lady.
Let's not forget Funny Car. Not only do we have the world champion Kenny Bernstein continuing to dominate, running like a freight train as consistently as ever, but now John Force, Tim Gross, and Dale Pulte also in the hunt.
And Bernstein seems more worried about John Force than any of those cars that you just mentioned, Brock. And in pro stock, how about Warren Johnson, huh? He eliminated Bob Glidden in round number 1, set low ET at 7.53 seconds. Last year, only Glidden could run in the 750s here at Pomona. 7 drivers in the first round in the 750s in pro stock.
So, round 2 of Top Fuel about to begin with the Chief Auto Parts Winternationals here at Pomona, California.
And already strapped in, hoping to win his first big one today, is Darrell.
Yeah, which actually borders the racetrack, which is in Pomona, about 30 miles to the east of downtown Los Angeles, and a site of drag racing for years and years, Steve.
And Brock, it's time for Top Fuel competition, round number 2 in the NHRA Chief Auto Parts Winternationals. Darrell Gwynn, Miami, Florida, a former alcohol dragster world champion, still looking for his first win in Top Fuel. How tough is it converting from alcohol to nitro? Well, in his first season of racing, Brock, Gwynn grew an ulcer at 24.
Hard to believe for such a low-key guy, a guy that runs with his dad, Jerry, also a former drag racer, a family operation.
And they are up against here in round 2, Frank Bradley of Napa, California. A former touring pro, Frank has backed off on his schedule plans only to run on the West Coast this season. Now, Darrell Gwynn, in round number 1 earlier today, served notice he could win the whole thing. He ran a 5.406, missing low ET by 6/1,000ths of a second. He now faces this man who, for obvious reasons, is nicknamed the Beard, Frank Bradley of Napa, California. Darrell Gwynn, as we said, still looking for his first big win. Don Garlits has been his nemesis, has beaten the young man 3 times last season.
And yet they remain close. Gwynn's sort of the protege, as it were, unofficially of Don Garlits, probably because he raced against his dad, Jerry, over the years, and now both from Florida, the 2 most prominent teams, the oldest and the youngest on the trail.
Here we get a good look at Frank Bradley's car, about 1,800 pounds. No one's sure how much horsepower. We guess around 3,000. They move up now for the very delicate staging process. Darrell Gwynn, a brand new car, yet to be painted, finished number 6 in the world last year.
And a very determined young man, a man who has listened, watched the old pros in this business, and has come on very quickly. In fact, he went to the finals at the U.S. Nationals before losing to Garlits.
Starter Buster Couch sends them on their way. It is Bradley off the mark first. Bradley with the lead at half track. Gwynn pulls even. It is Gwynn by about half a car length. And for the 3rd consecutive run, counting qualifying, he's in the 540. A 549 at 258.
Beautiful, consistent drive. You can see him clapping his hands there as he rolls to a stop. Here we go again. Gwynn versus Bradley. Gwynn in the left-hand side of your screen. As you said earlier, Steve, it looks like Bradley had a little bit of an edge on the start, but it was all kinds of power by Darrell Gwynn at half-track that drove him onto that victory. Steve is with him.
Well, Darrell Gwynn out of the cockpit, another 540, this time a 49, Darrell.
Well, I think the string of 40s will win the race. It did shake a little bit on that pass, but I'd like to thank everybody that's involved with this hot rod. We just need to keep it consistent, and I think we'll be there.
Do you think you can get in the 530s, maybe become the world's quickest drag racer at 24 years of age?
Well, I got to thinking about that last round. That didn't even run through my mind when I rolled in this gate, but I'd like to win the race and run 530.
He might just do that.
So the young man rolls toward the semifinals here at Pomona with a very convincing victory. One of the most familiar cars in the business, a man who has been around almost as long as Big Daddy Don Garlits. That is Connie Coletta rolling into the water box.
And he will face the only man who has ever run in the 530s, and that, of course, is Gary Beck. The two-time world champion. Beck will be in the near lane. And Beck also won the last race held here at Pomona, the World Finals last fall. And his opponent, Connie Coletta, coming off of his best season ever, 2 national event victories last year. Now, Gary Beck, the record holder at 5:39. In fact, he has run that elapsed time twice. He, in the first round, came up with a near record time of 5.41 when he defeated Dick LaHaye. LaHaye was the #1 qualifier, but watch the left-hand side of your screen. LaHaye is running an experimental clutch in that car, and this time it hooked up a bit too hard. Watch the car in the near lane. A moonshot for Dick LaHaye. Gary Beck takes advantage and advances into round 2.
And from Ypsilanti, Michigan, the veteran Connie Coletta now running a very prosperous charter flying service as he uses some of his spare time to run the big top fuel cars.
Gary Beck ran quicker in round #1 than did Connie Coletta, so he has lane choice, has elected to take the near side. So far, there doesn't seem to be any imbalance between the lanes, but traditionally the racers favor the near lane here at the fairgrounds in Pomona. Coletta in the far lane, Beck in the near lane as they inch forward into the electronic staging mains. When those wheels move, the clocks will start. It is Coletta away first. Connie Coletta away. Gary Beck trying to catch him, but he will not do it. Tire smoke eliminates Beck, and Connie Coletta goes to the semifinal round with a 5:52, 253 miles an hour.
Well, here is an example of the enormous power that these automobiles generate. You can see Coletta off a little bit earlier. Beck just stands on the throttle, and the tires go up in smoke. He loses traction and drops out.
Well, when Gary Beck smoked the tires, there was no question who was going to win that one, a 5:52.
It dropped off a little bit. I wonder why. We'll figure it out, I guess.
You know, as cold as it is, and it's getting colder, I wonder how much that racetrack's going to take.
I don't know. Usually, if the racetrack ain't going to do it, Steve, it's going to spin the tire just like his did, okay? And this racetrack has been bad when it gets warm, all right? And it's always held it, so I don't know. What kind of speed we run, do you know?
I didn't hear the speed, Connie, but good job into the semifinals.
Okay, thank you.
So the veteran Connie Coletta joins the youngster Darrell Gwynn in the semifinals here at Pomona as this man, Big Daddy Don Garlits, will try also to make that select ranking of 4 at the Cheap Auto Parts Winternationals.
That's Gene Snow, the long black car from Fort Worth, Texas. Opposite him will be an even longer, even blacker car of world champion Big Daddy Don Garlits. One of these drivers will go to the semifinal round.
Well, Steve, Garlits was 7/100ths of a second slower ET-wise in the first round, so Snow very much a contender here, and if he does it again, it's bye-bye Big Daddy.
Well, 7/100ths of a second in this sport is a clear-cut victory, and Big Daddy Don Garlits for the first time has an onboard computer. Big Daddy with a computer, that could be big trouble for the competition.
And rumored to be building a Streamliner car in his Ocala, Florida shops. Gene Snow, on the other hand, very much a gentleman racer these days. Used to be a pro, started the funny cars, they say, but now just races for the fun of it.
Well, Gene had his first NHRA national event victory in top fuel last season, winning the Fall Nationals at Phoenix. Garlits in the far lane. Snow is the first to come up from pre-stage. The starter, of course, is Buster Couch, as he has been here at Pomona for 26 seasons.
Okay, the tree goes green, and Snow, little wheel stand, he gets out of the throttle just like Gary Beck, and Big Daddy goes on to an easy victory. 5:58, though, not too quick in the ET department, Steve.
No, he's going to have to pick that up. A speed of 257 miles an hour. And you're right, Brock. Gene Snow's run looked exactly like Gary Beck's. It carried the front end out. When it settled down, it unloaded the rear tires, and that was it.
Okay, as Big Daddy rolls to a stop up at the other end of the racetrack, that is the former world champion Joe Amato, who in qualifying ran 269 miles an hour. Surely the quickest ever run in a single pass, almost a record. We'll see if he can back that up as he goes up against Earl Whiting from up in the Pacific Northwest, a not too constant competitor here in the NHRA National Championship Trail. Certainly not a man carrying the credentials that Joe Amato does. So Joe hoping to have a relatively easy run against the underdog Whiting. But in the meantime, Big Daddy is out of his car.
Well, for Don Garlits, it's a semifinal round berth with a 5:58 at 257 miles an hour. The Big Daddy, sooner or later, as we march through this wheel, we're going to run into one of those 540 cars.
Maybe.
You may be one of them before it's over.
That's right. Any one of these cars can run that good.
Are you approaching this rather conservatively, just kind of building?
I'm just taking it a run at a time.
I know.
Not one of my better days, but the car is still in the race.
First time you've run a computer. Anything from it yet?
No, we're not gaining anything. But just getting information is all we're getting to find out where we've been.
And then maybe know where you're going.
I hope so, yeah.
Don Garlits, much more serious than normal. We wonder what he's actually got on his mind as we watch Earl Whiting backing up here. This is, as far as we know, only the second time he has ever raced in competition. Longtime car owner, very new driver.
Well, here's a man who's been drag racing all of his adult life, Joe Amato, the defending Winternationals champion. And this was that final race a year ago. Amato on the left-hand side of your screen up against Gary Ormsby, himself a former Winternationals champion. It was Ormsby off the mark, burst the nitro flames out of the exhaust pipe, but it was a clear-cut victory for Joe Amato. He hopes to do that very same thing to Earl Whiting right now, but Whiting may have some problems, some concern with the crew there, Brock.
Right, Steve. It looks as if one of the crewmen is saying, shut it off, Earl. We got some problems. Yes, no question about it. Earl Whiting is going to hit the kill switch, and that means Joe Amato gets a bye run here. Now, he'll still try to go quickly because he wants lane choice in that semifinal round, Steve.
And also, he'll want to test this right-hand lane. We saw Gary back, and also Gene Snow have problems in the near lane. Let's see how Joe Amato can handle it as Earl Whiting goes back to the barn.
And a very, very frustrating moment for a drag racer. They build so much adrenaline, so much emotion into these 5 or 6 seconds. And there goes Joe Amato on a bye run.
And it is a beauty, Brock. Amato at 5:46. Jerry Amato very happy with that top of the board, but Amato is not slowing down properly. The parachute is tangled. Joe Amato heading out through the parking lot.
Absolutely a big open parking lot here at the LA County Fairgrounds. Fortunately, a lot of room to shut it down. A 261 mile an hour top speed. So that 5:46 gives Joe Amato the lane choice over Connie Coletta in the Top Fuel semifinals.
And the other half of the semifinals, there's 30 years difference in their age. 24-year-old Darrell Gwynn, 54-year-old Don Garlits, both from the state of Florida. And in the Darrell Gwynn pit area, his father Jerry putting the finishing touches on that engine, adjusting the valves on the aluminum Hemi racing engine to get ready for the 4th confrontation in the young man's career against Big Daddy.
Garlits in one of those traditional between race thrashes to get ready for the semifinals here at the Chief Auto Parts Winternationals. I'm Brock Yates along with Steve Evans as Garlits and his crew put their finishing touches on their 3,000 horsepower Top Fuel motor. That is Connie Coletta's crew. They too working to get ready for the semifinals. Hard work between these rounds. And now let's go to Steve with another competitor in the semis.
Well, Joe Amato, this is a Top Fuel dragster, not an off-road car.
Steve, it was a wild ride. It's a brand new parachute. I guess we're just putting a little bit of taxing because of the speed we're doing, and it tore a shroud light on it. You know, it was bouncing down there too. They're pretty good, but we got it stopped.
Well, you knew if you put it in the net, you were done for the day.
Yeah, I know. That's why we didn't want to hit that net, and whatever it took, I was going to drive it back the return road if I had it to get it stopped here.
Well, you know, you played beat the clock successfully. A 5:46 will give you lane choice over Connie Coletta.
Well, that was good. We were just trying to sneak up on a little bit at a time here. Tim Richards and the boys doing a good job. The car went 5:47 3 times and a 5:46. You know, we're in the right bracket if we can keep it there.
Well, the most important thing he had that time were some good brakes.
Yeah, the Hurst Hard brakes definitely do the job.
Well, he had a couple of hairy moments at the end of the track, but a happy ending as Joe heads back toward the pits. And now it's funny car time as we watch John Martin head into the bleach box. And Steve, he has a dubious honor facing him.
Oh, for sure, Brock. John Martin has his toughest challenge in his brief funny car history coming up. The world champion, Kenny Bernstein, will be in the near lane. Martin, only his second season as a driver. He was a car owner originally, and here is the body being latched down on Kenny Bernstein's car, the most aerodynamic funny car, certainly in all of drag racing, as we've talked about before.
And also probably the most high-tech, Steve, with all kinds of computerization, wind tunnel testing done a long time, and certainly the most consistent performing car perhaps in the history of modern funny car competition.
Well, they say there's no such thing as an easy one in drag racing, and that's probably true. But this comes about as close as Kenny Bernstein could ask for. In round number 1, Bernstein ran 28 hundredths of a second quicker than did John Martin. And in this quarter-mile sport, that's an eternity, both with the escape hatches open to let a little fresh air in.
Well, John Martin is just going to have to hope for mechanical problems. There doesn't seem to be any question that his car or his experience is able to run against his competitor from right down the road, really, in Upland, California. John Martin, as we said, not too experienced against a man who is the reigning world champion from Newport Beach, California, a former Texan who moved out here to stay even closer to the high-tech world of drag racing.
Kenny Bernstein was the first to wind tunnel test his funny cars, the first to perfect onboard computer science, the first to hide some of his speed secrets under a dirty towel, and for 86, the latest trick from crew chief Dale Armstrong, 3 magnetos. Count them, 1, 2, 3. 3 magnetos means 3 spark plugs per cylinder, right? Correct. 2 of them in the conventional location developed by Chrysler Corporation many years ago for racing purposes. The third one, a little harder to see. It's down under the exhaust header. Let me show you in detail how that works. Now, this concept is only possible using a solid aluminum billet cylinder head like this one designed by Ken Vinnie. And here you see the usual spark plugs, 2 per cylinder. Now, the third spark plug, right here just underneath the exhaust port, okay? And here's what the combustion chamber looks like with the 3 spark plugs. Here's the 2 you're accustomed to seeing. Now, here's the third one that has been bored in by Dale Armstrong. Now, you've got a much better flame front throughout the hemispherical combustion chamber. Now, with 1 spark plug, you have to run about 70 degrees lead. In other words, the spark plug has to fire 70 degrees before top dead center of the piston. With 2, you can back that down to about 55. Armstrong tells me with 3 of them, they only run about 40 degrees lead in the motor. The only problem they had in testing, the engine is now so thirsty for fuel that they almost ran the tank dry.
And that is the man who is responsible, and for the most part, for the technology in this race car. That is crew chief Dale Armstrong guiding Kenny Bernstein up into the staging lane. Not only has he built enormous technology into this race car, but the reliability level is awesome. The car simply doesn't break, Steve.
Well, don't you know John Martin in the far lane wishes he had a Dale Armstrong working for him. They lunge into the lights and they're away. Kenny Bernstein out first. John Martin says, you can have it, pal. Kenny Bernstein, low elapsed time of the event for funny cars. 5.60, 252 miles an hour. No taking it easy on Bernstein's part.
Well, Steve, remember that that's only 2 100ths of a second slower than Big Daddy Don Garlich's win in Top Fuel. So he'd be right in the hunt there as well.
Absolutely. What a match race that'd be. I'd buy a ticket to that. All right, here we have got the defending car owner with a new driver. Joe Paisano's car, Mike Dunn, who we've seen many times before, formerly with Roland Leon's Hawaiian car, is at the wheel. His first national event for Joe Paisano.
Paisano, the manufacturer of the JP1 racing engine. Also, this car carried Al Segrini to a Winternationals victory here 1 year ago.
And in the near lane, John Brute Force, still looking for that first big one after so many runner-up finishes. Now, John had an easy time of it in round 1 with a fellow named Ray Higley. Now, had he raced his scheduled opponent, Ron Carini, things might have been a little different. Carini failed to show for the reasons we're about to show you. On that qualifying run, it was Carini in the Captain Crazy Thunderbird far lane, Dave Uehara in their lane. Carini qualifies, but suddenly in his lane, he has company. He is blindsided by Davey Uehara. No way Carini can see him coming. Right now has to wonder what on earth has happened to me. Here, you see it again. The Thunderbird of the far lane. Right now, Carini knows he had a good run, and suddenly he feels a tremendous impact from behind. It tears the rear wheels off of Carini's car. Davey Uehara's fuel tank explodes. Miraculously, both drivers were okay.
Well, it sort of looked like your basic freeway rear-under, except that it happened at 250 miles an hour as both cars slid to a halt, carrying thoroughly shaken race drivers.
Well, Ron Carini is out of the medical tent, and Ron, you appear to be okay.
Yeah, I'm fine. Well, I just don't know what hit me. I couldn't believe that, you know, we just finished this car, and all of a sudden I get something wrapped in the back, and, well, the thing just took off. I didn't, you know, had no control of it.
Well, as fine a race car driver as Dave O'Hara is, I have a feeling that whatever happened to his car, he probably had no control over.
Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't his fault. He said he thought he hit a light down and it just threw him over in the other lane.
In fact, Dave O'Hara, Dave, I know that when you got out of your car, you were more concerned about Ron's condition than your own.
I felt fine. I was just concerned about Ron.
Do you know what happened?
The car started drifting. Right coming into the first light, I hit the parachutes, and apparently I hit the first light, and that's what sucked me right over the other lane.
So the throttle didn't stick or anything like that?
I believe it was stuck a little bit because I was trying to get off the thing, and it just kept on going. That's when I went for the parachutes, and it hit the first light, and I think that's what sucked it right over there.
Well, race cars can be rebuilt. The important thing that you guys are okay.
So a tough break in particular for Ron Careni, who is out of the competition. But in this particular case, it leads to this confrontation between Mike Dunn and John Force.
Well, Mike Dunn has had 2 bad crashes in his career. Took about a year off and returns at the wheel of Joe Paisano's beautiful car in the 4 lane. Near lane is John Force with one of the most talented crew chiefs in drag racing, Austin Coyle. Just a matter of time, the experts say, Brock, before John Force wins the big one. He also from Southern California, an intense competitor who has a battle with that Christmas tree every time in that starting line. Force is dedicated to getting away first.
But not this time. It's done out by 6/100. But it's the big power of John Force that drives him on to victory with a 575, 252 miles an hour. Steve is with Kenny Bernstein at the far end.
Well, we've used that word consistency so much last year, but I guess it still applies, Kenny. Another 5.60.
Well, that's good. Super. Well, it made it through the quarter mile that time without annihilating a piston. Maybe we can work on it some now and go from there.
I know you and Dale were concerned with that number 4 cylinder, and no smoke out of it this time at all.
No, he's been catching up with it every run, and it just seems like it wants a lot of fuel. But, you know, Dale is good at that, and the computer readouts help him to make those decisions, and he finally caught up with it. So it's good, encouraging knowing that we can go from one end to the other.
Is it as exciting beginning a new season wearing the number 1 as it was trying to get it last year?
Oh, yeah, it certainly is. I mean, the number 1 means a whole lot to you, needless to say. And but it's a whole new year, and you got a whole new battle to fight. Another 14 NHRA Winston races to go for, so it's a brand new season, and it's all over, starting again.
Well, 2 more win lights, and this one is yours.
We'd love it.
Well, you've got to label him the favorite, the most consistent funny car driver of them all at this particular point. As we go to the pit area of Darrell Gwynn, the young man from Florida, intent, concern. He'll face Big Daddy Don Garlits. At Pomona, California, the Chief Auto Parts Winternationals, as we watch one of Joe Amato's crewmen assembling his engine, putting the headers on that cylinder head. This is Kenny Bernstein's Tempo Funny car as one of the crewmen adjusts the magnetos. Don't forget, in both the funny cars and the top fuels, they get a complete teardown between rounds. And now, let's go to Steve with John Force.
Well, John, Mike Dunn was right on those lights. It looked like you had to pick him up half track.
He was hot. We were running just a shade ahead of Dunn, and I kind of tried to, I seen Bernstein spin the tire out there and still run a 60, and I thought, Coyle's got the horsepower in this thing. I can drive it off. And old Dunn, he just kind of stung me there a little bit, and she went out, had the front end up, and I saw the center line. I thought I was going to ram him. I pedaled her a little, and she sat down, and she cleaned up, and horsepower saved me there, buddy.
575.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Can you run quicker to challenge Bernstein if you have to?
No doubt about it. We're just trying to get a couple of laps in here to get this thing where it'll ET, and she'll run 60s. We know that, but when Bernstein spun him, there was no way I was going to put her to the wood here and blaze the tires and get beat up when this round was over. No way.
You heard it from John himself. No doubt about it.
A lot of strategy. You heard John Force talk about watching Bernstein and then adjusting his driving accordingly. That is Johnny West in the famed Hawaiian car of Roland Leong, getting ready to go up against Dale Pulley. And Pulley, Steve, has been running very strongly of late.
Indeed he has, and this is a beautiful Buick Regal automobile, a totally different roof line. I think it's handsome.
Absolutely different, Steve. That same basic body style that Warren Johnson uses on his pro stock Oldsmobile Calais. Not quite perhaps as aerodynamic in appearance, but apparently wind tunnel tests indicate these cars are very stable and very slippery.
And in the opposite lane, it's a replica of a Dodge Daytona body for Roland Leong's Hawaiian car with its latest driver, Johnny West. You'll recall Rick Johnson wheeled this machine last year to some record numbers, and there's an old saying of drag racing, if Roland Leong ever had a driver's reunion, it'd be held in the Astrodome. And Johnny West is going to be about the 40th driver that has wheeled with a Hawaiian.
Well, we'll see how he does against Dale Pulley, who, as we said earlier, running very strong, on a hot streak right now.
And Dale will have to do it all by himself this year. His longtime partner, Mike Hamby, has retired. Now, in round number 1, Dale Poley was up against Ed the Ace McCullough, the Oldsmobile-bodied car, in the near lane, Poley in the far lane. Poley was off the starting line first, pulling away from McCullough, and unbeknownst to Dale Poley, suddenly McCullough's car turned into an inferno. The blower exploded, savaging the body. The only thing still attached to the automobile, the front fenders, as McCullough wheeled the car off the drag strip, his fire suit smoking.
Well, every blower explosion in big-time drag racing is violent, but this was in the small nuclear category. An incredible explosion that literally shattered the body, as you said, tore it apart. We've never seen a body destroyed in quite the magnitude of this. McCullough now driving literally with just the nose piece hung on the car, nothing else left of the automobile. Fortunately, though, his fire suit and the safety equipment that he carried on board brought him home, and Steve was there.
When you see the video, I think you'll be amazed at how hard you were driving that car in that inferno.
Well, the main thing, I mean, I knew that Poley was alongside somewhere. I knew the guardrail was on the other somewhere, you know, and anything in between, I was trying to stay away from both of them. I left my visor down until the flame went out, and obviously it was, you know, oiled and burnt, and I couldn't see, and finally I lifted the visor up enough that I could see where I was going, and then, you know, at that point I knew I was going to be okay.
And the way the body separated, you lost the firewall, the only protection you have.
Well, we don't know really what happened yet. I mean, obviously it was a terrible explosion, and it, you know, we've had blower explosions before, you know, but the body left, and like you said, there was no protection left.
Well, considering the violence of that incident, it was a great job of driving and real poise shown by the veteran Ed McCullough.
Okay, here we go. Johnny West, the new driver for the Hawaiian. New to this car, Johnny has campaigned his own top fuel racers and funny cars for about 15 years out of Chandler, Arizona. But this is the big break he's been looking for, Brock.
Well, this car, campaigned by Roland Leong, has won a whole bunch of major events over the years. Leong, of course, one of the real pioneers in big-time drag racing, and has been in the funny car ranks for years. And let's not forget a driver that was with him for a long time, a man named Don Prudhomme.
Absolutely, they're away. It is Johnny West with a big hole shot, but over the center line goes Johnny West. Dale Poley wins it with a 577. I'll tell you what, Johnny West got almost a perfect light. That's what Leong pays him to do. The car probably shook a little bit, Brock, and that took it over the center line.
Well, West knew he was out of it. He probably observed the fact that he got over that line and just backed out of the throttle and let Dale Poley go on to what was a relatively easy victory, considering that he was way behind at the start.
Well, you had a lot better view of it than we did, but Johnny West appeared to be on a pretty good pass there for a while.
He sure was. I could see the front of his car out there, and when he's out there, he's ahead of you, and I saw him come over the center line there, and I thought, well, I lucked out.
A 577.
I think we'll go back and work on the clutch a little bit on it, because we just didn't have the time. We got a bunch of guys here filling in on the weekends that are really working good, and a good crew helping us and everything. Just nobody's ever worked together before.
You will not have lane choice. Forrest ran a little bit quicker. That's your opponent in the semis.
I think both lanes are equal.
Let's hope so. Makes for better racing.
So Dale Poley moves on, and with a 577, he's got some work to do. All right, the next pair, Steve Evans. This is Tim Gross, who has been unsponsored for a long time, works very, very hard, trying to campaign a car without a lot of bucks, but now he's got some backing. He is up against John Collins, another one of the good guys in the funny car ranks.
And ironically, John Collins for years has had a lot of backing, and that has disappeared. So he's out here as a privateer trying to win enough prize money to make it all work.
So we've got two young men who have never quite made it in terms of major victories for the NHRA, but are very, very much in it at every event they run. Hard drivers, both hard workers. Both these guys just crashed in the pits between rounds.
Well, Tim Gross last year made a breakthrough, winning the NHRA Keystone Nationals in Pennsylvania. John Collins, well, sometimes he's in Long Beach, California, but you can usually find him racing quarter horses in Oklahoma.
So this is going to be an interesting confrontation. Two drivers, very hard workers, hard, experienced, qualified guys. Neither big winners, though, on the NHRA trail overall. So I would say this is just about a toss-up, Steve.
I would, too. I think they're very equal as far as driving experience is concerned. Both very cool customers. They've been tested in the crashes and the fires over the years. Nothing really bothers them. Tim Gross, his fiancée, Barbara Hogan, that's the main help of this automobile. You see her walking away. Bob Kreutz from Oklahoma crewing for John Collins. Here we go, second round funny car competition at the Winternationals.
So they're ready. They're going to just squeeze into those starting beams. There goes Gross. Buster Couch, hand on that Christmas tree starting sequence, and they're off.
It is Tim Gross away first. It is Tim Gross pulling away from John Collins. And oh my, Tim Gross has suddenly leaped right into the thick of things with a 568. 246 miles an hour. Not much speed, but a great elapsed time.
Good elapsed time, almost equaling Kenny Bernstein's 560. Just a wink off that, so that could be an interesting confrontation. Tim Gross, Kenny Bernstein going against it in the semifinals here at the Cheap Auto Parts Winternationals. The other pair, that will be John Force versus Dale Foley. John Force having a lane choice based on his lower elapsed time. And now, let's talk with the winner, Tim Gross.
Well, Kenny Bernstein, not the only driver capable of getting into those 560s. For Tim Gross, you go to the semis, my young friend, with a 568.
All right. Thank you, Stephen. We had the advice of my good friend Lanny McGleason, who produces our clutches and all that, and he suggested the right lane might be a little smoother for the way we run our car, and that proved out to be right. I mean, it almost took my breath away. That thing was so smooth and so clean, it startled me.
Well, you probably won't have lane choice against Bernstein. No, you won't.
No, that's quite all right. And actually, the way the car is running and all that, I think the way I'm setting things up right now, I think we can probably get through that left lane without any additional trouble.
Good luck to you.
Thank you very much, Stephen. All right, let's do it!
There is a positive attitude as John Collins, who just lost it, congratulates Tim Gross, who heads into the semifinals here at the Winternationals. The Cheap Auto Parts Winternationals, where work is underway, preparing for the semifinal race against Darrell Gwynn. Earlier, Garlett started his winning ways with that dramatic first-round defeat of Shirley Muldowney. It was just a few moments later that Shirley returned to the pit area in front of a standing ovation by tens of thousands of fans. Few ever expected the moment to occur after Shirley suffered the near-fatal injuries in that devastating crash on June 29, 1984 in Canada. 19 months elapsed, most of the time devoted to reconstructive surgery and endless hours of rehabilitation, leading to her miraculous return to the racetrack. It was in the lengthening shadows of an Arizona sunset at Firebird International Raceway near Phoenix that Shirley caught her dream. The painful operations and exercises behind her, Shirley in her brand new bright pink dragster were the center of attention. During the extended layoff, Shirley's crew chief, Ron Tobler, and her son, John, kept pace with the rapidly changing technology of Top Fuel Racing and prepared a true state-of-the-art dragster for her return. The elation of the moment was obvious on Shirley's face as she sat in the cockpit when the 2,500 horsepower racing engine thundered to life for the very first time.
What emotions are going through your mind right now as you prepare to go to the starting line for the first time? Anticipation, maybe a little trepidation?
Well, I'm anticipating, an easy ride. I think it's, it should be a cakewalk, and if it isn't, then I think the only problem will be with me. And I think I have it together. It's just, I hope everything goes good for us. In drag racing, you never know. The little things can bite you. The little tiny part can go bad. It's hard to say what's going to happen with a brand new car. Well, a brand new everything, including the suit that fits quite well, actually.
Deep down, dig real deep. What brought you back to drag racing after everything you've been through?
I'm good at it, and I want to be able to go out and make my living at something I enjoy. I'm still young yet, and I think I have several more years left. And I'm not doing it just for myself. I'm doing it for all of us. We were always a team, and everybody wanted to come back. I wanted to be with them. They wanted to be with me, and I think we have a good group here.
The long wait was over. The time had come to test not only the machine, but Shirley's own spirit and determination. It was a rough road traveled from June of '84 in that muddy ditch in Canada to January 1986 at Firebird Raceway near Phoenix. But Shirley achieved what many had said was impossible. She tested both herself and her machine, and neither was found wanting.
Well, Shirley's day is done here at the Winter Nationals, but you can bet we'll hear a lot more from that lady before this season is out. Right now, it's time for the Top Fuel semifinals. That is Connie Colletta in the far lane. In the near lane, the red car of Joe Amato as they stage to do battle. Only one car will go to the final round. There's no second chances in this sport of NHRA drag racing. They are set and ready. They leave. It is Connie Colletta out first. Connie Colletta has the lead. Connie Colletta hangs on to it to win it. An upset for Connie Colletta. 5:54, the winning elapsed time.
Very close race, a 5:59 for Joe Amato. A little higher top speed for Connie, 265 miles an hour to 260 for Joe. Now, this is an interesting race. Connie Colletta, a little bit better reaction time. He gets the whole shot, but about half track, it looks as if Joe Amato is going to run right past him. Remember, he ran 269 miles an hour earlier in qualifying here, but it was Connie Colletta holding off that challenge in the lights and going on to a half a car length victory. So Connie drives his way into the finals.
Joe Amato says to Connie Colletta, good race, and boy, it was. 5:54, 5:59. Connie, great job.
Thank you, thank you. It was a fun old race. The car shook the tires really hard, but it had enough to do it.
I heard you tell Joe that, and that blurs your vision, just it worries you.
The whole racetrack disappeared from me, Steve. That's one of the hardest it's really shook. In fact, when I was able to see the racetrack again, I guess I was over towards the center line on the thing.
Who do you think you're going to race in the final? Could it be the kid or the old man?
I think it's going to be the kid.
He's in the driver's seat for the first time.
Yeah, he is. We'll see. You know, let's see. And he usually hunches up when he races Don, but we'll see.
He hunches up?
Yeah, Don's off, and so is he a little bit. It's hard telling what it is.
Okay, Connie. Brock's with Joe Amato.
Did Connie surprise you a little bit?
No, I know he could run good. You know, he's been running strong. He went a 42 in the second round or the first round there. So you know, it's been tough. The top last four cars there, it was anybody's game because they're all really running tight. So it's going to be anybody's race now between who wins.
Well, we're sorry you're out. Good race, Ed.
Well, thank you.
As always.
Thank you.
Well, Joe Amato says it's anybody's race. Connie Colletta says he likes this man, Darrell Gwynn. He always punches up when he races Don Garlits, whatever that means. And look at the length of the burnout by Darrell Gwynn. Big Daddy usually does an abbreviated kind of a burnout. Darrell Gwynn likes to really blaze the tires, get a long ways down the racetrack, so when he's backing up, he can put heat throughout the motor, get everything to a consistent temperature. And of course, the biggest confrontation in the past between these two was last year at the granddaddy of all drag races, the U.S. Nationals in Indianapolis, Indiana. It was the kid against the old man. That's what the press called it. And maybe this was the race that gave Darrell Gwynn his ulcer. Gwynn was on the outside at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Big Daddy Don Garlits on the inside. The last two cars of Labor Day weekend, they left right together. Gwynn lost traction, and it was Big Daddy by well over a car length, winning back-to-back U.S. Nationals titles and enough points to make him the new world champion. Can Darrell Gwynn turn the tables on Big Daddy here at the Winter Nationals, the first race of the season? We're about to find out, Brock.
Well, Steve, he's got an edge in ETs. Remember, he ran a 5:49 against Don's 5:58 in that second round, so he should do it. Look at this. It isn't even a contest.
Darrell Gwynn was away first and run his fourth consecutive 5:40 elapsed time. Is that teenage crew ever happy? Look at Darrell Gwynn giving himself a well-deserved round of applause.
Well, Garlits, something broke in the race car, and it wasn't even a race at all. Garlits, as you can see here, they launched together. It looks like it's going to be a good drag race, and then suddenly something breaks on Big Daddy's car, and it's goodbye. Darrell Gwynn goes on into the final round.
Well, Darrell Gwynn, for the third time in his young career, will go into the final round, but this time Don Garlits won't be there. You already took care of that business.
Yes, I did. I've been runner-up to him many a times, and runner-up just don't cut it anymore, and I'm pretty serious about winning this thing. I just can't say enough. I'm very happy. We haven't heard apart all weekend. The crew's done an excellent job.
Let me tell you something that's going to salve that ulcer you're starting to grow. 5:45 gives you lane choice.
Well, there again.
You're thrilled, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I can't even hardly talk. I tell you,
And I'm not going to make you. We'll see you down here in just a short time. You might win this whole thing.
Thank you very much.
That man's pumped.
Out of sight. So, young Darrell Gwynn on the threshold of his first ever major victory. The pairing, Darrell Gwynn versus the veteran Connie Coletta. And based on that very strong 5:47, Darrell has lane choice. Meanwhile, back in the pits, this young man, Tim Gross, hopes to get into the finals as well in funny car. But he's got a major roadblock in front of him, named Kenny Bernstein.
It is living proof that you don't have to be rich to make it in big-time motorsports. They have put this young man, Darrell Gwynn, into the final of the NHRA Winternationals. He did it by beating none other than Don Garlits, and Brock is with Big Daddy.
Well, we've caught up with Don Garlits back in the garage area, and a philosophical man, a victory that eluded you for the first time against Darrell Gwynn, but he is running well, and I know you had problems.
Yeah, we had a drivetrain disconnect. The engine went up pretty high. Caught it good. It didn't blow up or anything, but of course, without that, you don't travel on. But he was running real good. I don't know whether I could have mustered that good of ET or not. The 5:45 that he registered on that run was excellent. He stands a good chance of winning this race.
Well, we're awful sorry out, and but I know that we'll all probably be kind of rooting along with you for the young man from Florida.
You bet.
Okay, thank you, Don.
And Brock, the next time we see that man, he'll have a brand new, and he says, revolutionary car. It is time for second round of Pro Stock. 2,350 pounds, gasoline and carburetors. Warren Johnson with the Oldsmobile in the near lane, heating up those tires. He will be up against the legendary Rear-End Morrison Camaro from Texas with Bruce Allen on board.
Well, Steve, both these guys are transplanted northerners. Warren Johnson started out in Minnesota, and young Bruce Allen came all the way from Michigan down to Arlington, Texas to work with the Rear Morrison team.
And Bruce Allen, going into his second season now for the car owners, has got to be a lot more relaxed. You can just see the tension in his interviews and conversation with him last year. I get the feeling now that he is ready to win some big races. Warren Johnson, of course, no question, he's got the horsepower. Handling seems to be Warren's problem from time to time.
Well, Warren Johnson again running a brand new chassis. Every year he shows up with a little smaller Oldsmobile. These things are going to get like go-karts in a few years.
It is Bruce Allen away first. A big hole shot for Bruce Allen. Here comes the old in the near lane. Warren Johnson, can he catch him? Yes, by about a foot and a half. Warren Johnson overcomes Bruce Allen 764 with a beautiful 753.
Good, strong run. Shows that Oldsmobile horsepower that he carries with him into almost every race. And that time the handling seemed to pay off as well. Okay, the next pair. This is Butch Leal against Ken Dondero. A couple of real professionals in the Pro Stock ranks.
And two of the best drivers in drag racing off that starting line. Ken Dondero is seldom second best when it comes to leaving the line.
Well, Leal also brings a big reputation as a man who's excellent with the lightest, so it's going to be a toss-up. Remember now, in Pro Stock racing, it is the start that is absolutely critical.
And Butch Leal, everybody will tell you, is the very best at it. Oh, Dondero wasn't second off the line. He was first, but too soon. He left a red light. Butch Leal, Pontiac Firebird, goes into the semifinals. And it was Leal who last year gave Pontiac their first ever Pro Stock win at the NHRA Southern Nationals near Atlanta.
So Leal moves on as we go to the next pairing, and that is Frank Iaconio in a brand new Thunderbird. His second year with the Ford product after a long time with the Chevrolet product, Steve.
That's right. Bob Glidden is already out, so Iaconio carries the Ford barrier all by himself. Dempsey Hardy, well, he's got an 86 Trans Am, a real veteran from Vero Beach, Florida. But Iaconio has won something like 11 NHRA national events, has been runner-up at 20 others. So the experience edge has got to go to Iaconio in a pressure situation like this. Thunderbird versus the GM product.
Steve, he had a long, hard road getting that Thunderbird to work for him. A terribly difficult last season. Right now, he's got his hand full with Dempsey Hardy. Can he pull it out? Yes, but just by a wink. A very strong run by both men. Iaconio in with a 763, but only barely. Dempsey Hardy gave him all he asked for and then some as he just pulled out that victory. All right, let's go to the next pair.
And this is the brand new Camaro of Jerry Ekman. So new it is yet to even be painted. Ekman is a very steady competitor, has not won a race, but may, if he keeps performing as he has lately, from Ventura, California, up near beautiful Santa Barbara on the coast of the Golden State. And Nick Nicholas, he's from the other ocean, Jackson Heights, New York.
Actually part of the borough of Queens. So we got East versus West, Pontiac Trans Am versus Chevrolet Camaro. A classic matchup. Interesting pair of guys, Steve. I really can't pick a winner here, can you?
Well, Nicholas has had the better last time, and apparently Ekman knew it. Jerry Ekman redlined, and I think he just kind of closed his eyes and rolled the dice, Brock. He knows that he didn't win this race. I'm sure he saw the red light. Nick Nicholas will go to the semifinals. A nice 760, 182 miles an hour. This guy's a comer.
He sure is, but he's going to have to find some more speed because he's going to go up against Warren Johnson, who ran a 7:53. So Johnson has the lane choice in that semifinal matchup. The other pair, that'll be Frank Iaconio in the Thunderbird versus Butch Leo's Pontiac Trans Am. And Butch Leo, with the quicker ET, has the lane choice.
And back in the pits, things look pretty calm in the Connie Coletta pits as they finish buttoning up the between-round thrash. They, of course, will be facing Darrell Gwynn in the final.
Auto Parts, Winternationals, Pomona, California. I'm Brock Yates. Steve Evans is here with me, and we've got some funny car action in the semifinals, Steve.
And normally, when you see Kenny Bernstein in the near lane, you think, well, there's an underdog on the other side. Not so here today. Tim Gross stepped up last round with a 5.67. Bernstein's best has been a 5.60, so anything could happen here. And Brock, I sense there's a little bad blood between these two anyway. One of the few defeats Bernstein suffered last year was at the hands of Tim Gross in Pennsylvania, and something might have happened that day. They are off right together. Bernstein smokes the tire. It's going to be Gross.
Oh, what an upset. Gross, just a perfect pass. Bernstein lights the tires up, as you say, a 561, a 241 mile an hour pass. That puts Tim Gross into the finals. You've got to write that off as a major upset here.
But that 561 of Gross's would have been tough for Bernstein to contend with no matter what he'd done.
Well, Steve, their reaction times were absolutely equal to the thousandth of a second, but it was the tire smoke there that spelled defeat for Kenny Bernstein and victory for Gross.
I can feel it in his pit area before this semifinal run. Tim Gross, you are full of confidence, and deservedly so.
Thanks, Steven. It felt pretty decent, but the car shook hard and a lot of clutch dust and all that, and I got distracted when that red car disappeared so fast near the starting line. I assumed something happened to him.
He smoked the tires. You ran a 561.
Oh, my God. All right. Oh, I hope she looks as good as it did last pass, because we're ready.
All right, Tim Gross, do I have to tell you he's excited? I don't think so.
Thank you.
And let's go to Brock with the world champion Bernstein.
Well, you are witnessing a very rare occasion indeed. Kenny Bernstein is a loser. Almost an occurrence we just don't get used to talking about, you having lost a race. Kenny, it sounds as if problems are from the start, though, huh?
Well, she did. She smoked the tires. They knocked them loose right off the starting line. There's not much you can do, but, you know, those things happen, and my crew still worked hard at it, and it's been a good start for the season, and we'll go after that Winston Championship just as hard as we did last year.
Well, we're sorry out.
Well, I understand.
Well, the Winternationals was not kind to Kenny Bernstein last year, but he still went on to be the world champion. The big question now, who is going to face Tim Gross in the funny car final? Will it possibly be John Force, runner-up so many times in the far lane? Or could it be the beautiful Buick Somerset Regal of Dale Poldy? Brock, what do you think?
Well, it's hard to pick a winner between this pair, Steve. Of course, both of them have very equal ETs during the course of this event. Poldy, on the other hand, has won more major races. John Force may be a little hungrier on the other hand, so I'd say it's a toss-up.
It is Poldy off the mark first, but he blazes the tires just as Bernstein did. John Force will meet Tim Gross in the final of Funny Car Eliminator, a 575, 255 mile an hour win for brute force.
Well, you wonder, that was the same lane that we saw Bernstein go up and smoke in. There may be some oil down there, but whatever it was, exactly too much horsepower for Dale Poldy, and he is out almost before he starts. So, John Force goes on to the finals.
John Force, you're going to get another shot at that elusive final round, this time against Tim Gross.
Well, what can you say? people laughed at me when I hired Cole because I was spending that kind of money, most of my budget, and I said it'd pay off, and we went around and around about a gear change down there, but he said the track don't appear to be there, and then Gross pulled out that 60, and Bernstein smoked the tires, and thank God for the gear change, because you can see it worked and it ran just as quick.
Indeed, but maybe some attention is going to be paid to the clutch this next one, because you do not have lane choice.
Well, that was more a tune-up run, believe it or not, on a clutch, and the track's good, and if I can give him some help with the motor and the driving end of it, we're way overdue, Steve. You know it. It's been coming in 100 years.
Absolutely.
Seems
like 200.
Yeah.
Brock's with the man, John B.
Well, Dale, we're sorry. That was a super show. A lot of people thought you were going to walk away with it today.
Well, that's drag racing. It's we're out there with a crew that hasn't worked together, and guys just flow in to help me. And the new Roger Sound Labs car is doing really good, and I'm happy we got as far as we did, and the rain let us run, and the whole deal. So,
what was specifically the problem?
Oh, we just went up there, and we were a little bit late getting into line. We didn't get a chance to readjust the clutch, and John had a chance to make a lane choice, and he saw Kenny smoke the tire, so he did the right thing.
Yeah. Do you think that's a bad lane?
Yeah, it comes and goes around here. When the sun starts going down, that kind of starts hurting you, and I think it was to his advantage to have the lane choice, without a doubt.
Well, you and Kenny both bit the dust in that one lane, so it's got to be something got to be the matter over there.
Well, there's a lot of races throughout the rest of the year and stuff. This is just the first one, so this Roger Sound Labs car is going to be tough.
Well, congratulations for going as far as you did, Dale, and we're sorry you're out.
Thank you very much.
You hear a lot of talk about the clutch, the all-important link between horsepower and tires. And who has the better clutch setup could determine the finals when we see Tim Gross go up against John Force. Gross will have the lane choice with that brilliant 5.61 elapsed time. Right now, it's time for the semifinals in Pro Stock. And this is Warren Johnson, who you can see by the number on his car was number 2 in the world last year.
And going against him is the New Yorker Nick Nicholas, who's decidedly in the underdog role here, I would say, against the number 2 man in this business. Nick is going to have to get all he's got out of that Pontiac to win this one.
Well, he was late off the line. Nicholas was 100th of a second behind Warren Johnson, but look at the fight he put up. A 7:58 wins it for Johnson. To Nicholas is losing, but close, 7:62.
A good drive, and I think it's surprisingly strong drive for Nicholas. Really, we could be hearing more from this young man as the season progresses, Steve, because he was really, really in it all the way. Less than a car-length victory for Warren Johnson.
Is Johnson going to race that Pontiac in the final round, Butch Leal? Or could he possibly be up against Frank Iaconio in the red Ford Thunderbird? We're just about to find out. We've talked about how quick Butch Leal's off the line. He has cut a perfect light here today, Brock, earlier.
Well, he's going to have to do it because Iaconio has seemingly found the handle on that Ford Thunderbird. We said earlier last year, oh, he didn't do it this time, Steve.
No, it is a red light for Butch Leal, and that's a shame because Iaconio had some problems right off the line that might have given that race to Leal had he been able to just hold back some of that energy on his starting line. Iaconio wins it at 7:64, a big speed, 184 miles an hour.
It was, but believe it or not, Iaconio goes into the finals with a slower ET than both Nick Nicholas and Warren Johnson that first race.
That's right. Iaconio had some problems right off the line, but still, he will face Warren Johnson. It'll be Ford versus Oldsmobile in the Pro Stock final.
And this man, John Force, will be one of the players in the funny car final as he goes against Tim Gross. It's showdown time at Pomona.
Winternational, only 6 are left, including this man. Tim Gross, his crewman, uses some compressed air to blow all of the clutch dust out of the bell housing. That's the material that is worn off those discs. And interestingly enough, Brock, Gross did not even take that car apart. A little different approach.
Interesting. Most of these guys just tear him to pieces between rounds, but not Tim. That may mean he's confident, or maybe he's running short of parts.
Well, this is the Pro Stock final. After a year of development, Frank Iaconio is finally ready to run competitively with the Ford Thunderbird. Warren Johnson, well, he's always competitive, but weather problems earlier in the week, limited qualifying runs. Warren Johnson really didn't get the time he felt he needed to totally dial this car in. Let's see what happens. They are staged and ready. They lead. It is Frank Iaconio out first. It is Iaconio ahead of Warren Johnson. Iaconio is going to win it. 7:56 to a 7.77, his first win in a Ford.
Interesting race because Johnson almost crossed the center line. He looked like he got a little bit loose, and from there on in, it was all Frank Iaconio. Let's take another look. They leave just about together, maybe a little bit of an edge to Iaconio goes Johnson. Look at that. He almost crosses the center line right there and apparently had to back out of it. So Frank wins it.
You know, this is always a quiet man from New Jersey, but I think we'll get a little animation out of him now. It's 7:56. I'll tell you, about half the people in this place had just given that race to Warren, not to be.
Yeah, he was running good though, Steve. I mean, he ran 7:53 twice, I think. The track's was a little fluky because of the weather, I think, and it was just a matter of who got down the track the best. I had a lot of trouble, and we changed some stuff for the final, just because we were like a tenth slower than Warren, and it worked. The car went straight.
You changed from Chevrolet to Ford last season. You struggled along. Glidden had such a head start from a development standpoint. Have you caught up?
No, I don't think so. I think Glidden would have ran 40s if he had run, if he was here with his old car. He had a new car here, and he had a lot of problems.
Yeah, but you got the money.
Yeah, right. That's what counts.
Frank Iaconio, Winternationals Pro Stock Champion.
And it turns out that'll be about an $18,000 payday for Frank. Not bad for an afternoon's work. As we see the sun setting here at Pomona, and that is Connie Coletta doing his burnout in getting set for the Top Fuel final. Darrell Gwynn already made his burnout. He, too, is backing up toward the starting line. And as we said, his entire crew is a volunteer group, including his fiancée, Shelley Stanton.
Well, Shelley, I guess you know it's love when your fiancé lets you pack his parachute.
Yeah, he doesn't have much time to do it himself.
You young kids have been looking forward to a win at one of these big races a long time. You going to get it today?
Hopefully. I hope. I'm praying for it.
I asked Darrell when you guys were going to set a wedding date. He said, well, when we get a sponsor, and he just kind of laughed. I wonder if winning all this money might help.
I hope. That's what he says. He's been telling me if he gets a sponsor and everything, but I don't think just this race. You need more than that to live on.
Well, maybe at least be able to buy the ring for you, Shelley, if you can beat out Connie Coletta as they get ready for the Top Fuel final here, Steve.
It is Darrell Gwynn, first to pre-stage. We're looking at the exhaust headers on that car. You see the nitro flames as the shadows lengthen here at Pomona. Lengthen, it's almost dark. Connie Coletta here in the near light. One of the problems right now may be just seeing where you're going.
No headlights on these things. But there you can see the beam, the light of the staging beam. There's the Christmas tree. Green light. Look at those fire out of those headers.
It's going to be no contest. Darrell Gwynn off the mark first. Darrell Gwynn wins it. The crew absolutely ecstatic. That is his 5th consecutive 5:40 elapsed time. A feat I don't believe has ever been accomplished before. Give yourself a hand, kid.
Beautiful work, and it couldn't be deserved by anybody more than this young man. Worked so hard. A beautiful drag race. A good start by Darrell and by Connie. Absolutely equal reaction times, but from there on it was Gwynn as Connie loses traction and the young man goes on to victory.
Well, you've heard us all say it. Myself, Don Garlitz, anybody that knows anything about drag racing, that a win was going to come soon for this young man, Darrell Gwynn. Congratulations, 5:46 did it.
Thank you very much, Steve. Them runner-ups, I tell you, they just don't cut it. It's nothing like a win. I'm here to tell you, this is nothing like I've ever experienced. I've won 10 national events in the alcohol car, but the king of the sport, Top Fuel, here we are.
People ask me, how does the Gwynn family do it? They don't have big sponsors, a teenage crew, mom's in there making lunches. How do you do it?
Well, as far as we're concerned, we kind of got things back down today. We didn't figure the car would run as good as it did. We just couldn't afford to hurt a bunch of parts, and thank God here we are in the winner's circle.
Well, they say you can't race as a sportsman anymore, as a hobby. Darrell Gwynn has proven that you can do that successfully without the big corporate sponsors. You've done it. Come on, you've done it.
Thank you very much.
He beat the big boys today, including Connie Coletta. Brock?
Well, you got to the finals and the car ran real good, and you have scared a few folks today. I know that.
Yeah, the hot rod's running real good.
Okay. Congratulations. We're sorry you lost it.
Hey.
Well, a great victory by Darrell Gwynn, getting a hug from his dad, Jerry, himself a former world champion. And Darrell will be the first to tell you, without Dad and Mom, this wouldn't have happened today. Funny car final coming up.
In the gathering darkness here at the Winternationals in Pomona, California, 2 cars will fight it out for the Funny Car Championship. Tim Gross, 1 major NHR victory on his gun belt. John Force, 5 runners-up titles, but never a championship.
There could be some kind of a problem with Tim Gross's car. It's so dark, it's hard to tell. Lonnie McGleasy, who does the clutch for that team down there adjusting the wheelie bars, but also his fiancée, Barbara Hogan, appeared to be concerned. But now apparently they're going to move up in stage. John Force, 5-time runner-up. He can't even believe he's never won a big NHRA national event. That could all change right now.
Well, the man has had some tough breaks. He's a hard worker. Everybody is on their feet. The whole starting area is clustered with photographers, and the stands packed as the light begins to fail. It's almost totally dark here now, Steve.
Now, John Force's crew chief, Austin Coyle, completely stripped that motor, checked everything. Tim Gross's crew, they never took the cylinder heads off. They were that confident with their combination, or maybe were afraid they'd make a mistake putting it back together. Hard to say. It is John Force off the mark first. John Force off first. Tim Gross powers into the lead. Force, Gross. John Force loses something, but he appears to be okay. But Tim Gross wins the drag race and the Winternationals at 5:69.
Well, it was John Force who had a little bit better light, just by a few thousandths of a second, but it was Tim Gross overcoming what appeared to be a little bit of a problem on the starting line and goes on to a victory, as you say, a 5:69, 236 miles an hour, substantially slower than the 254 recorded by the loser.
Tim Gross wins his second NHRA National Event title, but this time, unlike the last time, the engine's all together, you're not on fire, everything's perfect.
This is probably one of the most exciting moments of my life, but yeah, what a distraction. I staged the car up and my goggles were totally fogged. I left the starting line, and while I know this probably isn't kosher for the rules and all that, I had to rip my goggles off my face before I could shift it so I could see where I was going.
Desperate men do desperate things.
And then when I got near the lights, of course, there was so much flying around the cockpit and all that clutch dust, I had problems seeing, and I heard him go by me, and I didn't know if I was at the finish line or what. But I guess we won her, though.
The win light doesn't lie. Congratulations.
I'm very happy for Barbara, of course, my fiance, and the rest of the crew and on the entire Skull Band organization. And
we're proud of you, too.
Thank you, thank you.
I've seen this crew in action. I'm going to get out of here before I get crushed. And Brooks with, again, runner-up John Force.
Well, John Force, I know that cheering in the background is the sign of a winner, and unfortunately, somebody has to lose one of these things as well. You gave it a good fight, but it just wasn't quite enough.
Well, that's the way it is, and Gross, he definitely earned it. He don't have a better race car, and he don't have a better team. My group with Austin Coyle were excellent, and it was just his day to win. And it'll be ours sooner or later, and he was just, I wouldn't say the best man here today, it was just his time to win.
Well, that's what, it's a game of milliseconds, and you were awful close. Did the car run according to what you had hoped to, or did you have some shake?
We stayed pretty much on schedule. We figured we didn't think he could repeat, but yeah, our motor's right on. We're just going to get ready for Gainesville, and we're going to get mean and angry again.
Well, congratulations for going to the finals. We're sorry you lost.
Thank you.
That is one tough hombre. He will have his day, and it may come soon. But the celebrating is still going on down here in the Tim Gross camp. His fiancée, Barbara Hogan, in there for a good hug. This girl has worked hard, as you can tell by the dirt on her uniform. Our congratulations to all the winners. Tim Gross, Darrell Gwynn, Frank Iaconio. Everybody did a fine job. For Brock Yates, I'm Steve Evans saying so long from the NHRA Winternationals at the LA County Fairgrounds.
The executive producer for American Sports Cavalcade is Harvey M. Palish. Produced and directed by John